Hey there, pilots! This is Dauntless Sam, and today we'll be looking at the history of the Yakovlev Yak-7 and its flight characteristics in War Thunder. The Soviet Yakovlev Yak-7 was developed from the earlier Yak-1 fighter, initially as a trainer but converted into a heavy fighter. As both a fighter and later reverting to its original training role, the Yak-7 proved to be a capable aircraft and was well liked by air crews. The Yak-7 was simpler, tougher, and generally better than the Yak-1. In 1939, Alexander Yakovlev designed a tandem-seat advanced trainer originally designated I-27 and then UTI-26, offered along with the original I-26 proposal that became the Yak-1. The UTI was intended to give pilots in training experience on a high-performance aircraft before transitioning to a fighter. With development work started in 1940, the UTI-26 differed from its predecessor in its larger span wing being placed farther back for balance, as well as having two cockpits with dual controls and a rudimentary communication system. It was armed with a single 7.62mm machine gun in the cowling, mainly used for training, but Yakovlev envisioned a multi-purpose aircraft that could also undertake courier and light transport duties at the front. The first production aircraft, known as Yak-7 UTIs, retained a retractable main landing gear, but beginning in the summer of 1941, a fixed landing gear variant, the Yak-7V, was substituted. The factory reasoned that production would be simplified and that reduced performance would not be detrimental for the trainer. Yak-7 UTIs and Yak-7Vs were also equipped with skis for winter operations. A factory team was detached from the Yakovlev OKB to supervise production of Yak-7 UTIs. One of these aircraft, serial number 0411, was fitted with an armored backrest plate over the rear position, self-sealing fuel tanks which filled with inert gas as they emptied, 3 RO rocket launchers under each wing for as many RS-82 rockets, an axial 20mm cannon firing through the propeller spinner with 120 rounds, and two 7.62mm machine guns under the cowling, each with 750 rounds. The rear cockpit position was retained, allowing for it to accommodate a second seat without controls for fast courier and transport duties, or for a fuel tank for extended range. The additional space could also house bombs or other gear. The engine was an M105P, and the model was designated Yak-7M 105P. After brief factory trials, the aircraft turned out to be better than the single-seat Yak-1, thanks to the modifications already applied to the UTI, as well as a revised undercarriage with bigger tires and wheels, more efficient brakes, and revised elevators, among other changes. Yakovlev submitted the Yak-7 to the authorities, who approved it immediately. The firing tests at the Scientific Trials Polygon for Aircraft Armament were a success, and the armament was found to have no effect on the flight characteristics or general performances of the new fighter. The aircraft's stability as a firing platform was judged far better than the Yak-1, the Lag-3, and the MiG-3. Test pilot Lazarev noted the good flight characteristics of the Yak-7, how easy it was to get out of a spin, and how well it behaved while diving, characteristics that he considered safer than those of the Yak-1. But the Yak-7 showed some defects. The M105P engine piping, the landing gear locking system, the tires, and the tail wheel were identified. The Yak-7 was introduced into the production line, and the first batch of 60 reached operational squadrons by the end of 1941. Another important variant was the Yak-7 M105PA. On this model, the two machine guns in the cowling had been replaced by two 12.7mm UBS machine guns with 400 rounds. It was powered by an M105PA engine with an axial cannon with 120 rounds. Oil and glycol radiators had been widened and refined and slightly tilted downward. The insulation of the airframe was improved. The tail wheel was made totally retractable. Joints and skin were more carefully made. Panels on the engine cowling fitted better, the propeller reduction gear worked better, an electro-pneumatic reloading system was installed, and the canopy frame was reinforced. The Yak-B made 27 test flights in January and February of 1942. The reports noted that while the aircraft was not inferior to the Lag-3 and MiG-3 and to its foreign fighters in service of the USSR, it was more stable and had better flight characteristics. Subsequently, the GKO authorized production of the Yak-7A from April 1942, and 261 machines were built until July. After May 20th, the aircraft were equipped with a 68-liter tank behind the pilot's seat, but the pilot that used the Yak-7 on Stalingrad and on the Kuban removed it because it was not protected and affected the flight characteristics. Generally, the Yak-7B pleased its pilots. They reported that it was easy to fly at all altitudes, stable and easy to maintain, and although it did not climb as quickly as the Messerschmitt Bf-109, it was as maneuverable and fast, except in the vertical plane. But defects were also noted. There was too much drag from the radiators, the canopy glass was of bad quality, the pilot was not well protected enough, taking off and landing distances were too long, and above all, it was underpowered. The Yak-7 proved to be an effective close support fighter, although the first two-seaters were considered nose-heavy. Consequently, the factory introduced a rear cockpit fuel tank. Pilots complained about the fuel tank's vulnerability since it was unarmored, and it was usually removed in the field. There were constant changes to the design based on combat observations, including a definitive single-seat variant, the Yak-7B, which was produced in large numbers. After the war, some Yak-7V trainers were provided to the Poles, and a single Yak-7V was delivered to the Hungarians for familiarization with the Yak-9 fighter. After trials in April through May of 1942, a small batch of 22 Yak-737s was authorized, all of which were issued to the 42nd IAP at the Northwestern Front, where they proved highly successful both in air-to-air combat and ground attack. In War Thunder, there's one variant of the Yak-7, the 7B. It is a Rank 2, battle rating 2.7 fighter. It has a maximum speed of 589 km per hour, a turn time of 20.4 seconds, and a rate of climb of 18.1 meters per second. It is armed with two 12.7mm UB machine guns with 400 rounds, and a single 20mm cannon with 120 rounds. Secondary armament is either two 50-kilogram bombs or six 82mm rockets. As with most Soviet aircraft, it is best to boom and zoom your targets. Your armament has enough stopping power to only need one pass at the target to take it out. Most enemy fighters will be able to match or outturn you, but you do have enough maneuverability to be a difficult target to hit. Just keep your energy up, and you'll be a force to be reckoned with. I hope that this information has proved helpful. If you liked the video, please do like the video. If you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you think anyone else would be interested in this video, don't be afraid to share it. This is Dauntless Sam. Thanks for watching.